hopefully you had some success with this exercise. If you ran into some obstacles, no problem. We'll go through it together. If you got it right, excellent work. Okay, let's take a look at the solution together. So we want to create two variables in the main function. So I'm going to do this here. We're going to have one called switch, and we're going to have another one that's going to be called volume. All right. But we're not done. We want to assign these. So one of the variables is assigned false. Which one do you think should be assigned false? Well, I would say that a switch should be assigned to false. Okay, so hopefully that made sense to you. A switch could be a Boolean. A Boolean, think of a switch as something that goes up or down. It has two parameters. And doesn't that remind you, a switch, of something that can be true or false, toggled on or toggled off? Whereas volume is a weight measurement. So we want the other one to be 10. Kind of makes sense that volume could be set to 10. Okay, so that's the first part. So far, not so bad, right? Now we want to print these out, and we want to add some logical context. So we can create two macros. We'll do print ln over here. So we got one, and then we have another one underneath. So I can just copy paste them. Now a switch. What could I contextually place for the switch? Well, a switch could be like a launching pad in my mind. So I could say launch mode is set to, and we'll bring in our curly brackets, we'll put in our comma, we'll add a space, and this should be our switch, right? So we've got some kind of launch, we're launching something. And if we're launching something, then maybe that thing has some fuel. I don't know, it could be like a rocket. So we could say current fuel level is, right? And this could be our volume. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and let's see what we got. And we see we're getting an error in our standard error. It says cannot find value switch in this scope. Okay. And I like to leave these errors in on purpose because this is coding. You're going to often make syntax errors. You're going to often run into other types of errors with your functions, your scopes, all sorts of things. And the reality is nobody writes perfect code all the time. So the best way that I learned and ended up working with some of the biggest tech companies in the world is actually by sitting down with some of these guys and watching them make mistakes live, fixing them, explaining things, and watching them code live in a real capacity. And let me be clear, making mistakes is good. Making mistakes is imperative as long as you know how and when to do them. Because if you just look at perfect code and you think that's reality and you make your code and it goes into production and there are mistakes, that is much worse, much worse than learning how to debug early on and becoming very comfortable with that so that all of your mistakes get corrected in development and not in production. Okay. All right. I'll tone it back down. So here my mistake is this switch. This should actually be switched to switch. So we're going to reset that to switch. I'm going to rerun the code. And looks like our errors are now fixed. So you should also see that you have no errors. And what do we see here? My current investor portfolio is managed by Bank of America. My credit score is 800. Account active is true. Launch mode is set to false. And the current fuel level is a 10. Beautiful. Okay, and there's a solution. Now, of course, you may have come up with something different for your switch and volume. I'd be quite curious to see where your creativity and thought process took you with this. And please feel free to share your own solution. It could vary from my solution in the Discord in Rust, as long as the context makes sense and that you set switch to false and the volume to 10. Okay, so hopefully this is clear. Rust can get quite complex, so we're keeping things as clear and focused as we can without getting too deep right away. But data types, variables, macros, all of this in your first couple lessons, pretty good. pretty good. All right, keep it up, and whenever you're ready, I'll see you for more in the next video.